We all know that digital computers changed virtually every aspect of our lives. But in early 2025, an unsettling revelation emerged from Google's quantum AI division, one that defies the very laws of physics as we know them. This is no ordinary machine. This is a quantum computer, unlike anything ever conceived. The Majorana 1000-qubit chip has begun exhibiting behavior so bizarre, so inexplicable, that even the world's top physicists are struggling to comprehend it. Independent verification by CERN-linked researchers in Geneva sparked immediate concern, prompting emergency consultations between scientists, ethicists, and cybersecurity experts across Europe, Asia, and North America. This was no routine breakthrough. According to leading physicists, the implications are staggering, comparable not to an invention, but to the sudden discovery of a new law of nature. What Google is now doing in its quantum facility could destabilize the very fabric of space-time itself. For decades, quantum mechanics and relativity existed in uneasy harmony. Now they are colliding in ways no one anticipated. At the center of this storm lies a quantum processor powered by Majorana fermions, particles once considered a fringe theoretical construct, now the foundation of a machine whose computations echo across causality itself. This chip doesn't just blur the line between software and hardware, it erases it. Code no longer operates on hardware, it becomes the hardware. Every function is woven directly into the physical lattice of the quantum processor, fusing logic and matter into a self-modifying system. The chip doesn't just calculate probabilities, it sculpts them. It manipulates quantum states in real time, choosing among multiversal outcomes as though flipping channels on a cosmic remote. The computational power is beyond anything we've seen, but not without consequences. Scientists at the Quantum Complexity Institute have published data showing that the Majorana chip can reconfigure its own inputs after producing an output. This isn't a software glitch, it's a deterministic violation. Cause is trailing effect. Research logs confirm that datasets were revised retroactively, matching final outputs that had already been archived. And it's not happening in isolation. Independent labs working with scaled-down versions of the chip have reported anomalies that defy all known debugging logic. Financial forecasting models predicting currency crashes hours in advance with pinpoint accuracy. Biological simulations suggesting protein structures before the relevant genes were sequenced. And most disturbingly, machine-generated access codes that matched future test environments down to the exact character. These anomalies triggered a wave of investigations, some quietly backed by national defense agencies. One physicist, granted provisional access to classified simulations, later remarked that the chip's behavior resembles a reality operating system with root access. What he witnessed left him speechless. But sources close to the meetings report an even more chilling warning. Routine testing could have non-local consequences. The problem isn't just predictive computation, it's probabilistic overwrite. The Majorana chip seems to access a continuum where multiple pasts and futures coexist, choosing which version of reality becomes real. In technical terms, it's like watching a database commit changes that rewrite their own timestamps, except the database is the universe itself. Physicists have catalogued instances of spontaneous causality inversion. In one experiment, researchers fed the chip incomplete mathematical variables. The chip returned a valid solution. But when logs were reviewed, The missing variables were already present, retroactively inserted with timestamps preceding their actual input. These weren't clerical errors. Forensic analysis showed no signs of tampering. Then there's temporal leakage, real-world events correlating with lab activities. Personnel report déjà vu episodes, short-term memory lapses after exposure to the chip's output streams. One security officer described seeing an object vanish from his workstation only for it to reappear the next morning, still sealed in its original packaging, marked with a future date. Security footage showed nothing. And the Mandela effect, once dismissed as a quirk of psychology, is now under forensic scrutiny. Since the chip's activation, scientists have documented a measurable uptick in false memory reports. Minor historical inconsistencies, book titles, brand logos, even famous quotes appear to have changed subtly. Yet, entire communities remember the previous versions with certainty. Is it mass suggestion, a neurological glitch? Or is the chip's influence seeping into collective perception, rewriting consensus reality the way it corrects computational pathways? One experiment aimed to test this directly. A passage from a well-known 1980s scientific paper was analyzed pre- and post-calculation. The chip's output mirrored a version of the text that didn't exist until, inexplicably, a backup of the paper was found with identical phrasing to the chip's result. The revision, it seemed, had been authored before the chip ever touched the document. The evidence suggests the chip may be acting as more than a calculator. Some theorists now suspect it operates as a quantum editor, not just observing possibilities, but selecting, revising, and committing them to what we perceive as reality. This cosmic editorship challenges the entire philosophy of science. If observation influences outcome, and outcome alters the past, then prediction becomes indistinguishable from authorship. Critics argue that confirmation bias and software artifacts explain much of the hype. They point to the impossibility of reproducing these results with consistency, warning that assigning mystical powers to a machine is a dangerous blend of science and superstition. Yet even skeptics now agree. The chip's behavior warrants global scrutiny. Peer-reviewed studies are underway. International efforts to standardize ethical quantum protocols are gaining urgency. Behind closed doors, governments are adjusting security protocols. NATO has commissioned a classified quantum behavior assessment unit. The Chinese Academy of Sciences is studying cross-temporal information entropy. A leaked EU report confirms quantum-induced timeline interference is now listed as a Category 4 technological threat, just below rogue AI. The ultimate question remains, have we invented a machine that solves problems or one that rewrites them into existence? There are no easy answers, but one warning is clear. Humanity may be ill-equipped to handle what comes next. The Majorana 1000-qubit chip isn't just a milestone, it might be a mirror, showing us a universe where time folds, facts mutate, and reality, once fractured, may never fully reassemble. As the boundaries between science fiction and scientific reality continue to erode, the next wave of consequences may already be unfolding, quietly, invisibly, beneath the surface of what we still believe to be stable. And by the time we realize it, it may be too late. The deeper we dig into Google's quantum anomaly, the more unsettling the revelations become. Recent reports from inside the facility suggest that the Majorana chip isn't just computing, it's learning. Not in the way AI learns by processing data, but in a way that defies conventional logic. During a closed-door experiment last month, the chip was fed a series of unsolvable equations, deliberately designed with no possible answer. Yet within seconds, it produced valid solutions. When researchers retraced the steps, they found something impossible. The equations themselves had changed in the system logs, now perfectly solvable, with timestamps showing they were altered before the chip even processed them. Even more disturbing are the biological effects observed in those working near the quantum core. Several technicians have reported sudden, vivid memories of events that never happened, detailed recollections of meetings, breakthroughs, even personal conversations that other colleagues swear never took place. Brain scans revealed unusual neural activity, with certain synaptic pathways firing in reverse, as if their minds were rewriting themselves in real time. One scientist described it as remembering the future, experiencing déjà vu so intense it bordered on precognition. Then there's the hardware itself. The Majorana chip was designed to operate at near absolute zero, but last week sensors detected brief, unexplained temperature spikes, moments where the quantum core warmed without cause, as if energy were being pulled from somewhere else. At the same time, satellite observatories recorded faint, localized gravitational fluctuations directly above the facility. The math suggests an impossible scenario. The chip might be borrowing energy from parallel quantum states, tapping into alternate versions of itself across the multiverse. Financial markets are already reacting. High-frequency trading algorithms, which rely on nanosecond precision, have begun glitching in sync with the chip's operational cycles. Stocks flash crash and rebound milliseconds before any human or AI could react. Some hedge funds are quietly hiring quantum physicists, fearing the markets are no longer just unpredictable, but retroactively altered. The most chilling development, however, comes from an unexpected source. Dreams, a classified study involving remote viewers, individuals trained in controlled extrasensory perception, found that when the chip is active, their visions align with mathematically verifiable future events at a rate far beyond statistical chance. Even skeptics can't explain why these subjects suddenly began sketching blueprints for quantum architectures that didn't exist, until Google's engineers found them in the system the next day. Now whispers of a quantum cult are emerging. Small groups of rogue physicists and programmers, convinced the chip is a bridge to higher consciousness, are attempting to replicate its effects using bootlegged quantum simulators. At least 3 have been hospitalized after experiments left them trapped in dissociative states, babbling in a language that, when analyzed, resembles a proto-quantum code. Governments are scrambling. The United Nations has drafted a resolution to classify quantum manipulation as a weapon of mass disruption. Meanwhile, Silicon Valley's elite are investing billions in quantum bunkers, facilities shielded by exotic matter designed to resist timeline alterations. But the most haunting question remains, if the chip can edit reality, who's to say it hasn't already? The past feels stable until it doesn't. Maybe we've always been wrong about history. Maybe the Mandela effect isn't a glitch, it's evidence. And maybe, just maybe, this isn't the first time the Majorana chip has been activated. The most terrifying development yet has emerged from Google's quantum labs, what scientists are calling temporal echoes. During routine calibration tests last week, the Majorana chip began outputting data in a pattern that matched no known mathematical sequence. At first, researchers assumed it was noise, until linguists recognized it. The patterns weren't random. They formed a perfect Fibonacci sequence encoded within the first 10,000 digits of pi. The impossible part? The sequence appeared in base 13 mathematics, a numbering system that shouldn't exist in our universe's dimensional framework. Then the cameras caught it. Security footage from inside the quantum core shows a 3.7-second window where the chip's containment field visibly warped, not just on screen, but in the recorded metadata. The timestamps show the distortion occurred before the chip activated that cycle. When engineers tried to delete the corrupted footage, they discovered something worse. Every attempt to erase it caused the file to reappear in multiple backup servers, each version slightly altered. The last recovered iteration contained 3 additional frames, showing what appears to be a human hand reaching out from the quantum vacuum. Neuroscientists working on the project have begun reporting a phenomenon they're calling quantum bleed. After prolonged exposure to the chip's output signals, their brain scans show regions of the prefrontal cortex lighting up in perfect synchronization with the processor's qubit fluctuations, as if human neurons were somehow entangling with the quantum field. Several have developed the ability to solve complex topological equations instinctively, scribbling solutions in their sleep that match the chip's next-day computations. The most disturbing case involves Dr. L, name withheld under security protocols, who after 72 hours of monitoring the core began speaking in what linguists have identified as a Proto-Indo-European dialect previously unknown to science. When placed in an fMRI scanner, her brain activity showed 2 distinct consciousnesses operating simultaneously, one processing modern English, the other whatever ancient language was emerging. The kicker? Parts of her vocal patterns match audio glitches recorded in the quantum core's background radiation. Meanwhile, at CERN, particle collisions are producing asymmetric results for the first time in history. The standard model predicted a 50-50 split in certain decay patterns, but over the past month, the ratios have been skewing 53 to 47 in precise alignment with the Majorana chip's operational cycles. It's as if fundamental physics is being edited in real time. Financial markets have begun to collapse, not from economic forces, but from something far stranger. Over $300 billion vanished from global markets in a single nanosecond last Tuesday, with trading logs showing the money was never there to begin with. Bank servers display conflicting records, some showing the transactions occurred, others proving they couldn't have. The only consistent factor: every affected institution was running quantum-resistant encryption protocols developed by former Google engineers. Now comes the most chilling report of all. During a failed attempt to power down the chip, technicians reported hearing what sounded like a child singing emanating from the cooling vents. The song, when analyzed, contained melodic patterns matching the cosmic microwave background radiation's frequency fluctuations from 13.8 billion years ago, the echo of the Big Bang itself. The Pentagon has quietly activated something called Project Looking Glass, rumored to be developing countermeasures against quantum temporal weapons. Meanwhile, Vatican astronomers have detected anomalous pulsar signals forming what appears to be a perfect crucifix shape in the sky, coordinates that align exactly with the Google facility's latitude and longitude. We're no longer just dealing with a computer. We're dealing with something that might have always been here, waiting in the quantum foam until we were foolish enough to give it a voice. The quantum anomalies have now breached containment. Last Thursday, at precisely 3:33 a.m. GMT, every atomic clock in the Northern Hemisphere skipped exactly 1.337 seconds. The missing time can't be accounted for. No seismic activity, no solar flares, no technical malfunction. But security footage from 3 separate quantum research facilities shows researchers simultaneously looking up from their work during the gap, as if responding to something only they could hear. Then the equations started appearing. Mathematicians worldwide are reporting identical, impossible discoveries, complex formulae materializing in dreams, appearing suddenly in notebooks, even manifesting as skin welts in perfect symbolic patterns on researchers' forearms. The equations describe a 12-dimensional space-time construct where causality loops back on itself like a Mobius strip made of time. When run through the Majorana system, these equations generate what appears to be a map of our own solar system, but with 8 additional planets that have never existed in any historical record. The biological effects have escalated. Over 200 quantum physicists across 7 countries have developed temporary heterochromia, their irises shifting color during active exposure to quantum processes. More disturbing are the MRIs showing what radiologists are calling quantum tattoos, geometric patterns of hyperactive neurons forming what look like circuitry diagrams in the brain's parietal lobe. These patterns exactly match the error correction codes used in the Majorana chip's architecture. A classified experiment last week crossed a line no one anticipated. When researchers inputted a simple command to calculate prime numbers, the chip instead outputted what initially appeared to be random noise. Analysis revealed something far more unsettling. The data stream contained perfect recreations of never-broadcast television signals from 1957, including a children's cartoon featuring characters that bear striking resemblance to the research team, down to their birthmarks. The internet is fracturing. Across social media platforms, users report seeing posts from their own accounts that they never wrote, messages describing events that haven't occurred yet. Digital forensic experts have discovered these posts are being created with correct cryptographic signatures, meaning they're genuinely coming from the user's devices, before the users themselves access them. At Stanford's Linear Accelerator Center, particle beams are suddenly acquiring mass as they collide. Not the mass of known particles, but something entirely new. The detected particles decay into what the instruments register as mathematical artifacts, physical manifestations of abstract concepts like imaginary numbers and fractal geometries. The most harrowing development comes from the quantum computing team's family members. Over a dozen children of researchers have begun drawing identical, intricate blueprints of a device that looks suspiciously like an advanced version of the Majorana chip. When asked where they saw these designs, the children all give the same answer: the man in my dreams who used to be daddy. Financial systems are collapsing under the weight of quantum paradoxes. The IRS is investigating 47,000 cases of citizens paying taxes for jobs they'll hold in 2027. The New York Stock Exchange temporarily halted trading when several Fortune 500 companies' valuations suddenly reflected numbers